Commander Jake Reynolds had been drinking his third cup of coffee that night when everything changed. The communications center at Terra Prime Station was usually quiet during the graveyard shift, with only the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep from distant monitoring stations breaking the silence. Jake preferred these late hours. No politicians calling, no bureaucrats demanding reports. Just him and his small crew keeping watch over humanity's corner of the galaxy. The priority alert made everyone in the room jump. The harsh electronic screech cut through the peaceful atmosphere like a knife, and every screen in the communications center immediately switched to incoming transmission mode. Jake set down his coffee and walked quickly to the main console, where Lieutenant Chloe Parker was already working to clean up the signal. "It's coming from way out there, sir," she said, pointing to the star map display. "Signal's barely reaching us. Whatever's sending this is either really far away, or their transmitter is badly damaged." The static was so thick that Jake almost missed the words at first. Then the universal distress codes came through, clearly 3 short bursts, 3 long ones, 3 short again. Every spacefaring species in the galaxy knew that pattern. Someone was dying out there. "This is the Zephyrian colony vessel Peaceful Journey." The alien voice finally broke through the interference. Jake could hear the desperation, even through the translation software. "We are under attack by Kithora pirates. Our engines are completely disabled. We have 50,000 civilians aboard this vessel, including over 8,000 children. Our life support systems are failing rapidly. Please, if anyone can hear this transmission, we need immediate assistance." The transmission repeated twice more before cutting to static. Jake felt his stomach tighten as he looked around the room. Every person on duty had stopped what they were doing and was staring at the speakers. Lieutenant Daniel Brooks, the night shift's tactical officer, was the first to speak. "Sir, I'm pulling up what we know about Zephyrian colony ships. These are massive vessels, basically floating cities. If they're carrying 50,000 people, that's probably an entire population, fleeing something terrible. And the Kithora pirates?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer wouldn't be good. "Bad news, sir. They're not your typical raiders looking for cargo. The Kithora Syndicate specializes in selling entire populations into slavery. They'll keep those civilians alive just long enough to find buyers." Specialist Amy Foster looked up from her console, her face pale. "Commander, I'm tracking the signal's origin point. They're in Sector 77 Alpha of the Dead Zone." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. The Dead Zone was a region of space that most galactic civilizations simply avoided. No established trade routes, no patrol ships, no help coming from anywhere. It was the perfect place for pirates to operate, and the worst possible place for a disabled civilian ship to be stranded. "How long ago was this transmission sent?" he asked, given the distance and signal degradation. "Probably about 6 hours ago," Amy replied. "Their life support was already failing then, so, ... She didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room understood what 6 hours meant for a ship losing life support with 50,000 people aboard. Jake picked up his coffee cup again, then set it down without drinking. His hands were surprisingly steady as he activated the secure communication line to Fleet Command. The Galactic Council had forwarded this distress call to Terra Prime as what they called a courtesy notification. Most species in the galaxy viewed humans as dangerous primitives, the so-called Deathworlders, who came from a planet so hostile that it had created an entire species of warriors. What the galaxy didn't understand was that growing up on a dangerous world hadn't made humans cruel. It had made them protective. "Priority message to Admiral Thompson," Jake said calmly into the communicator. "We have a civilian rescue situation requiring immediate fleet response. 50,000 lives at stake, including children. Hostile forces present." He paused for just a moment, looking around at his crew. They were all watching him with expressions he recognized the same look humans got when they heard about children in danger. Tell the Admiral this is a Code Omega situation. Full civilian rescue protocol authorized. The moment those words left his mouth, red emergency lights began flashing throughout Terra Prime Station. The automated system immediately began broadcasting the Code Omega alert to every human military installation in the sector. Within seconds, the same red lights would be flashing on stations and ships across 12 different star systems. Jake watched his communications board light up as confirmations began pouring in from across human space. Every ship captain, every station commander, every pilot with a functioning vessel was responding to the call. "Sir," Lieutenant Parker said quietly, "the Galactic Council is going to be very surprised by our response time." Jake smiled grimly as he watched more and more ships report ready status on his tactical display. Let them be surprised. 50,000 civilians need help, and we don't leave people behind. Admiral David Thompson was reviewing routine patrol reports when the Code Omega alert came through. The bridge of the UES Defiant immediately transformed from its usual calm efficiency into controlled chaos, as every officer snapped to attention. Thompson had been in the military for 32 years, and he had never seen a Code Omega alert. It was the highest possible emergency classification, reserved for situations where civilian lives hung in the balance. "Sir, we're receiving the full briefing now," called out Captain Lisa Rodriguez from the Fleet Coordination Center. "Zephyrian colony ship, 50,000 civilians including children, under attack by Kithra pirates in the dead zone. Life support failing." Thompson felt something cold settle in his stomach. He had read the intelligence reports about Kithra pirates. They weren't just criminals, they were slavers who specialized in capturing entire populations. The thought of 50,000 innocent people, including children, in the hands of those monsters made his jaw clench. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. The distress call was sent 6 hours ago, but we don't know how long their life support will hold out. Could be hours, could be days." Thompson turned to his tactical display and felt his breath catch. The screen was lighting up like a Christmas tree as ship after ship reported in. Military vessels were responding exactly as he expected. Destroyers, cruisers, frigates, all changing course toward the rally point. But what surprised him was everything else. Admiral Rodriguez continued, her voice filled with something like wonder. "We're not just getting military responses. The cargo hauler, Big Betty, just diverted from a mining run. The luxury liner Star Princess is cutting short a vacation cruise to respond. Even individual fighter pilots are launching from civilian stations." Thompson watched the numbers climb on his display. 300 ships, 400, 500. The coordination was flawless. Every vessel was automatically assigned to formation positions. Supply chains were reorganizing themselves, and medical ships were being prioritized for the fastest routes to the rally point. Standing beside the tactical display, the Galactic Council's liaison officer looked like he was seeing a ghost. Veltar was a tall, insect-like being from a species that prided itself on military precision. But Thompson could see the alien's compound eyes growing wider with each passing minute. "Admiral Thompson," Veltar said slowly, "I need to understand what I am observing. Your species maintains a standing military force of this magnitude. What you're seeing isn't just our military," Thompson replied, watching as a group of mining ships formed up alongside a squadron of destroyers. "These are civilians volunteering to help. That freighter there, the Lucky Strike, was carrying medical supplies to a frontier colony. The captain just rerouted to join us because he figured we might need those supplies more." Veltar's head tilted in a way that Thompson had learned meant confusion. "But these civilian vessels, they have no weapons, no armor. They will be destroyed if they encounter hostile forces." Captain Rodriguez looked up from her console. "Sir, the civilian ships are requesting assignment to support roles. Medical evacuation, supply transport, engineering support. None of them are asking to join the combat formations." Of course they aren't, Thompson said. They're not stupid. But they know 50,000 people need help, so they're doing what they can. The alien liaison officer was now staring at the tactical display, as if it had personally offended him. Admiral, my government was told that humanity possessed perhaps 200 combat-capable vessels across all your colonies. I am currently observing 847 ships responding to this emergency, and the number is still growing. Thompson smiled grimly. Veltar, your government asked us how many warships we had, and we told them the truth. Most of these aren't warships. They're cargo haulers, passenger liners, mining vessels, research ships, but every single one of them has basic defensive systems and emergency rescue capabilities, because you never know when someone might need help. This isn't even half our total fleet, Rodriguez added matter-of-factly. We just keep our ships spread out across all the colonies and trade routes, but when civilians are in danger, everyone responds. The massive formation was beginning to move now. Hundreds of ships coordinating their jump drives for simultaneous hyperspace entry. Thompson had drilled scenarios like this countless times during his career, running simulations of large-scale civilian evacuations and rescue operations. He had always hoped they would never need to use these protocols for real. All ships, this is Admiral Thompson, he announced over the fleet communication channel. We have 50,000 innocent people under attack by slavers. These civilians trusted the galaxy to keep them safe, and the galaxy failed them. We will not fail them. Today, we show the universe what humanity does when innocent lives are threatened. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Hundreds of captains acknowledged the order, their voices creating a chorus of determination that filled the bridge. Thompson watched as his tactical display showed the entire formation, preparing to jump to hyperspace in perfect synchronization. Admiral Veltar whispered, I believe I am beginning to understand why the galaxy fears your species. Thompson looked at the alien liaison officer and shook his head. No, Veltar, today you're going to understand why the galaxy should trust us. The jump drives engaged, and 847 ships vanished into hyperspace, racing toward the darkness where 50,000 civilians waited for salvation. Captain Mike Harrison felt his stomach drop as his fighter squadron emerged from hyperspace and got their first look at the situation. The Zephyrian colony ship Peaceful Journey was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the largest human vessel he had ever seen. It hung motionless in the darkness of space like a wounded whale, its hull blackened and torn from multiple weapon impacts. Emergency lights flickered weakly along its length, and Harrison could see atmosphere venting from several breaches. Holy hell, whispered Lieutenant Tommy Chen over the squadron's private channel. That thing is the size of a city. How do you even build something that big? More importantly, how do you keep 50,000 people alive in something that damaged? Added Flight Officer Jessica Park, her fighter banking gracefully around a piece of floating debris. Harrison was already running tactical scans of the area. The pirate vessels were positioned in a loose circle around the colony ship. 12 ships total, ranging from small raiders to what looked like a converted cargo hauler bristling with weapons. They had clearly been taking their time with this attack, probably enjoying the terror they were causing. Control, this is Raptor Squadron, Harrison reported back to Admiral Thompson. Visual confirmation on the colony vessel. She's in bad shape, but still holding together. I count 12 hostile vessels, all Cathera configuration. They've got the civilians completely surrounded. Copy that, Raptor Squadron. Medical teams are standing by. What's the status of the colony ship's life support? Sergeant Kelly Davis answered from her position aboard the medical frigate Mercy's call, which had just dropped out of hyperspace behind the main fleet. Sir, I'm reading massive power fluctuations from their main reactor. Their environmental systems are running on emergency backup only. At this rate, they've got maybe 6 hours of breathable air left for all those people. Harrison felt his jaw tighten as he processed that information. 6 hours for 50,000 people, including thousands of children. The math was simple and terrifying. The Kithra pirates had been having what they considered a very good day. Their leader, a massive reptilian creature named Scare, had been lounging in his command chair and laughing as he watched the alien colony ship slowly die. The Zephyrians were a peaceful species. No weapons, no military, just civilian families trying to find a new home. Perfect prey for the slave markets. Commander Scare, his communications officer, called out, "The ransom demand has been transmitted to the Galactic Council. They should receive it within the hour." Scar's scarred face split into what passed for a grin among his species. "Excellent. And if they refuse to pay, we'll have 50,000 new slaves to sell. Either way, we profit handsomely from this day's work." That was when every alarm on every pirate ship began screaming at once. The human fleet didn't just appear. It materialized out of hyperspace in perfect formation, as if the entire armada had been choreographed by some cosmic director. One moment there was empty space, and the next moment 847 ships hung in perfect battle formation around the pirate vessels. "What in the seven hells?" Scare roared, his yellow eyes going wide as his tactical display showed, ship after ship appearing on sensors. Where did they all come from? His weapons officer was frantically working at his console, trying to identify the new arrivals. "Sir, I'm reading massive weapons signatures. These aren't civilian vessels, this is a full military fleet. And the configuration? Sir, these are human ships." Scare felt something cold crawl up his spine. Every pirate in the galaxy had heard stories about humans, the Deathworld species that fought like demons and never showed mercy to those who hurt innocents, but they were supposed to be scattered across dozens of systems, with only small patrol fleets. This looked like an invasion force. "Kithora vessels. This is Admiral Thompson of the United Earth Fleet." The voice came through clearly on all frequencies. "You will power down your weapons and withdraw immediately from this area. This is your only warning." Scare looked around his bridge at his crew, then threw back his head and laughed. 50 years of piracy had taught him that everyone could be intimidated, everyone could be bought, and everyone had a price. "Humans," he snarled into his communicator. "The galaxy's attack dogs finally show their faces. Listen carefully. Deathworlder, we have 50,000 hostages aboard that colony ship. You want to negotiate, or do you want to watch them all die slowly?" The response came back immediately, and the cold certainty in the human admiral's voice made every pirate on the bridge suddenly very quiet. "We don't negotiate with pirates," Admiral Thompson said, his words cutting through space like ice. "All ships execute Shepherd's Crook formation. Medical teams prepare for emergency rescue operations. Combat squadrons, weapons free, but target engines and weapon systems only. We need those pirates alive for questioning." Scare watched in growing horror as the human fleet moved with mechanical precision. The massive formation shifted like a living thing, with smaller ships moving to protect the colony vessel, while the larger warships surrounded the pirates in an inescapable net. Within minutes, his 12 ships were completely trapped by a force that outnumbered them 70 to 1. "Sir," his tactical officer whispered, "they're not even trying to hide their weapons capabilities. I'm reading energy signatures that could crack a moon in half." For the first time in 50 years, Scare understood what it meant to be the prey instead of the predator. Colonel Amy Foster had been through some tough situations in her 20-year military career, but nothing had prepared her for what she found inside the Zephyrian colony ship. The moment her boarding team cut through the outer hull, they were hit with the smell of fear, desperation, and failing life support systems. The corridor they entered was packed with alien families huddled together, their large eyes reflecting the emergency lighting that flickered weakly overhead. "My God," whispered Corporal Jake Miller behind her, his voice muffled by his helmet's communication system. There are so many of them. The Zephyrians were tall, graceful beings with pale blue skin and elongated limbs, but the ones Foster was seeing now looked nothing like the proud species she had studied in training manuals. These aliens were exhausted, frightened, and clearly suffering from oxygen deprivation. Children clung to their parents, while adults tried to comfort each other in their melodious language. "Medical teams, this is Foster," she reported back to the human fleet. "We need emergency medical support immediately. I'm seeing signs of severe oxygen deprivation, multiple blast injuries from the pirate attack, and what looks like several hundred people in critical condition." Dr. Rachel Kim's voice crackled back through the comm system from the medical frigate. "Copy that, Colonel. We're already suiting up and heading your way. How bad is the structural damage?" Foster looked around the corridor, noting the twisted metal and scorched walls where pirate weapons had torn through the ship's hull. "Bad, Doc. This ship took a real beating. I can see at least 6 major hull breaches from here, and the environmental systems are barely holding on." As her team moved deeper into the colony ship, Foster began to understand the true scale of what they were dealing with. The Peaceful Journey wasn't just a transport vessel, it was a complete floating city. There were residential areas, schools, hospitals, even parks with artificial trees and grass. 50,000 people had been living their entire lives aboard this massive ship, and now all of it was slowly dying. "Colonel," called out Sergeant Tony Rodriguez from further down the corridor, "I found their command center. The ship's captain wants to speak with you." Foster made her way through the crowded passages, stepping carefully around families who were sitting on the floor to conserve oxygen. When she reached the bridge, she found a tall Zephyrian wearing what looked like a captain's uniform, his blue skin pale with exhaustion. "You are ... human?" the captain asked in heavily accented English. "That's right, sir. Colonel Foster, United Earth Marine Corps. We're here to help." The alien captain's large eyes filled with what Foster recognized as relief, even across species lines. We thought no one would come. The pirates, they said humans were monsters, who cared nothing for other species." Foster smiled grimly behind her helmet. "Well, Captain, the pirates were half right. We can be monsters, but only 2 people who hurt innocent civilians." Meanwhile, in the space around the colony ship, the situation was developing exactly as the human fleet had planned. Lieutenant Commander Brian Walsh stood on the bridge of his destroyer Iron Will, watching as the last of the pirate vessels powered down their weapons and surrendered. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, Ensign Jennifer Lee, "all 12 hostile vessels have surrendered. No casualties on our side, and minimal damage to their ships." Walsh nodded with satisfaction. The engagement hadn't even qualified as a real battle. The moment the human fleet had appeared, the pirates had found themselves surrounded by overwhelming firepower, with no possibility of escape. The few who had tried to fight had quickly discovered that human weapons technology was far more advanced than anything in their databases. "Patch me through to Admiral Thompson," Walsh requested. "Sir, this is Iron Will. All hostiles are secured. The boarding teams report that most of the pirates are in shock. They apparently had no idea humans possessed this level of military capability." Admiral Thompson's voice came back calm and controlled. "Copy that, Commander. Have the prisoners transferred to the holding ships for interrogation. I want to know everything about their operation, how many other ships they have, where their bases are, what other civilian vessels they might be targeting." But the day wasn't over yet. 3 hours after the initial pirate fleet had surrendered, the human sensors detected new contacts approaching from hyperspace. Walsh watched his tactical display as more than 50 additional ships emerged from jump space. Clearly reinforcements that the pirates had been expecting. The new arrivals were led by a massive battlecruiser that dwarfed anything in the original pirate force. This was clearly the Cathora Syndicate's main fleet. arriving to collect their share of what they expected to be 50,000 new slaves. What they found instead was 800 human warships waiting for them in perfect battle formation. Unknown vessels. This is Admiral Thompson of the United Earth Fleet. The Admiral's voice broadcast across all frequencies. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any hostile action will be met with overwhelming force. Walsh watched through his ship's external cameras as the pirate reinforcement fleet came to a complete stop. He could only imagine what was going through their minds as they realized they were facing not a few scattered human patrol ships, but the largest military fleet that had ever been assembled in this region of space. The pirate admiral's response came after several long minutes of silence. Human fleet, this is Admiral Vask of the Cathora Syndicate. We surrender. Our weapons are powered down, and we request safe passage to withdraw from this system. Negative, Admiral Thompson replied immediately. You will surrender your vessels for inspection, and your crews for interrogation. The Cathora Syndicate's slave trade ends today. In less than 6 hours, what had been the most powerful pirate organization in 3 sectors had been completely destroyed. The human fleet had captured over 60 vessels, hundreds of pirates, and enough intelligence data to shut down slave trading operations across a dozen star systems. Colonel Foster, still aboard the Zephyrian colony ship, smiled as she watched human medical teams working alongside alien doctors to treat the wounded. The children were laughing now, playing games with human marines, who had taken off their helmets to seem less scary. You know what the best part is? She said to Dr. Kim as they watched the scene. What's that? The galaxy is about to learn that humans don't just rescue people. We make sure the threat never comes back. Ambassador Robert Clark had never imagined he would be standing in the most important political building in the galaxy, but here he was, looking out at representatives from over 200 different species. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous, a massive circular room with seating that rose up in tiers like an ancient amphitheater. Every seat was filled, and there were even species standing in the aisles because they couldn't fit everyone who wanted to attend this historic session. 3 months had passed since the Zephyrian rescue, and the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. The story had spread like wildfire across every civilized world, how a single distress call had triggered the largest military response in galactic history, how humans had appeared out of nowhere with a fleet that dwarfed anything anyone had ever seen, and how they had completely dismantled a pirate organization that had terrorized space lanes for decades. The human response was unprecedented, admitted Counselor Veltar, the same insect-like being who had witnessed the fleet mobilization from Admiral Thompson's bridge. Clark could see the confusion still written across the aliens' features. In less than 6 hours, they neutralized a pirate operation that had terrorized shipping lanes for over 30 years. They captured 63 vessels, arrested over 800 criminals, and rescued 50,000 civilians without losing a single life on either side. The chamber buzzed with conversation in dozens of different languages. Clark had learned that most species in the galaxy had been taught to fear humans, the dangerous Deathworlders, who came from a planet so hostile that it had produced natural-born warriors. What they hadn't expected was that these warriors would use their strength to protect others rather than conquer them. Dr. Michelle Adams, Earth's chief xenobiologist and one of the few humans who had been working with alien species for years, stood up to address the council. What you witnessed was our standard civilian rescue protocol, she said calmly. We've had these procedures in place for over 2 centuries, originally designed to rescue human colonies that came under attack. When we received that distress call, our people responded the same way they would for any human settlement. A tall crystalline being from the Altarian collective raised what passed for a hand. Dr. Adams, our intelligence reports suggested that humanity possessed perhaps 200 combat-capable vessels across all your territories. How do you explain the appearance of over 800 ships? Michelle smiled at the question. Because you asked us how many warships we had, and we answered honestly. Most of our vessels aren't dedicated military ships. They're cargo haulers, passenger transports, mining vessels, research stations. But every single one of them has basic defensive capabilities and emergency rescue equipment, because space is dangerous and you never know when someone might need help. The Zephyrian ambassador, a tall blue-skinned being named Zarthik, slowly rose from his seat. His large eyes were bright with emotion as he spoke. Honorable counselors, I speak not as a diplomat, but as one of the 50,000 people whose lives were saved that day. The humans didn't ask for payment. They didn't demand territory, or resources, or political concessions. They simply helped us because we needed help. Clark watched as the aliens' words had a visible impact on the assembled representatives. Many species in the galaxy were used to everything having a price, every favor requiring payment in return. Our colony ship New Dawn now orbits a beautiful world in human space, Zarthik continued. Our people are thriving there. Human engineers helped us repair our ship and build permanent settlements. Human doctors worked alongside our medical staff to treat the injured. Human teachers are helping our children learn about their new home, and they ask for nothing in return except that we live in peace. Admiral Thompson, now wearing the insignia of the newly created Galactic Defense Force, stood up from his position in the human delegation. The galaxy is a dangerous place, he said simply. Pirates, slavers, and worse prey on innocent people because they think no one will stop them. That changes now. The Admiral gestured to a holographic display that showed star charts of the local region. In the 3 months since the Zephyrian rescue, piracy in this sector has dropped by 97%. Word has spread through the criminal underworld that attacking civilians will bring the human fleet down on you like the wrath of angry gods. Captain Lisa Rodriguez, who had been promoted to command the new multi-species peacekeeping force, addressed the assembly next. We're not here to conquer anyone or impose our will on other species. We're here to make sure that what happened to the Zephyrians never happens again. Any organization that attacks civilians, any group that threatens innocent lives, will face the combined might of the human defense fleet and our new allies. She paused and looked around the chamber. We don't want your territory. We don't want your resources. We just want everyone to be able to live their lives in peace, without fear of pirates or slavers, or anyone else who thinks might makes right. The council chambers fell completely silent as the implications of her words sank in. For centuries, the galaxy had operated on the principle that power meant domination. That strong species conquered weak ones, that military might was used for expansion and control. The humans were offering something completely different, protection without conquest. Strength used for defense rather than aggression. Counselor Veltar spoke again, his voice thoughtful. Your species has been in contact with the galactic community for less than 50 years. In that time, most of us have viewed you as dangerous primitives, potential threats to be watched and contained. Today, we learn that we have had everything backwards. Clark smiled as he looked around the chamber. Through the massive windows, he could see the embassy gardens, where human children were playing alongside young aliens from a dozen different species. Their parents worked together in the embassy, humans and aliens side by side, building a future none of them could have imagined just months ago. The galaxy is safer now, he said quietly. Not because humans are the strongest or the most advanced, but because we've proven that strength can be used to protect rather than destroy. Somewhere out there in the darkness of space, our ships are standing watch, ready to respond to any call for help from any species, anywhere. The representatives began talking among themselves, and Clark could hear the change in their voices. The fear was gone, replaced by something he had never expected to hear in the Galactic Council chambers: hope. The Deathworlders had finally revealed their true nature. They weren't monsters waiting to devour the galaxy. They were guardians, standing ready in the darkness to protect anyone who needed protection. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.